In a world of shills and unreliable movie reviews, it's hard to find the truth before investing your time into a film. So now, we're going to judge who's telling the truth or who's out of touch with reality. It's time to review the critics.
It's been 6 years since we've seen our favorite anti-hero on the big screen in Deadpool 2. Once again, Ryan Reynolds brings sass and attitude to the character of Wade Wilson and his alter ego, Deadpool. But this time, he also brings a lot more heart.
What's left to say? Easter isn't working anymore. Everywhere.
Deadpool 2 is just as funny as the first, full of wisecracks, unique storytelling, and a healthy dose of emotion. But despite the film being better than its predecessor, critics liked it 1% less, giving it an unjust score of 84% on Rotten Tomatoes, while audiences really dropped the ball and only gave Deadpool 2 an 85%, 5 points lower than the previous installment. Any sane person would agree that this film deserved 100% from both scores. Perhaps it makes sense if we remember that in 2018 people had grown a lot more sensitive
of the United States of America
and had decided to be offended by everything. And like its 2016 counterpart, this film could be quite offensive if you're not tough enough to take it.
I know, right?
The critics have reviewed Deadpool 2, now it's time for us to review the critics. Mark Daniels says, Deadpool 2 is kind of like that zany guy you met at a party once. Yeah, he was fun that first time out. But when you meet him again, he's just more of the same, and that's boring. I'm guessing this guy was not a fan of Chris Farley.
We're gonna show this world a thing or two. We're gonna show.
When does zany ever get boring? And as for being more of the same, the jokes that are quote-unquote repeated are elevated to a higher level.
Why is your hand so tiny again?
That's not my hand.
Oh, Mary, Mother, Joseph!
That was nice for me.
And most importantly, this one has twice the heart and emotion as the first Deadpool.
Hey.
If anything, it's more like he's sobered up some.
Kiss me like you miss me, Red.
Well, come here.
A.O. Scott from New York Times is just a lovable ball of contradictions. He says this, and I quote, "What drives this franchise is the same force that drives so much culture and politics right now, the self-pity of a white man with a relentless need to be the center of attention. Only a complete buffoon would be shallow and narrow-minded enough to compare Ryan Reynolds to Donald Trump.
I'm going to fix it. I'm going to make it incredible. We have losers.
Take note, this review was written in the middle of his term.
I beat China all the time.
Oh, and do I even need to mention that A.O. Scott is himself a salty cracker? By his logic, he should never be allowed to talk negatively about anything, because that would be self-pitying.
Isn't it nice that all of those kind of annoying people who were always spoiling everyone else's fun?
Or altogether speak again. 'Cause guess what, Whitey? Your review is currently the center of attention, and not by RTC's volition. This guy makes me sick and needs to revoke his rotten score effective immediately. We'd read his full review, but it turns out he's just another white guy asking for money. Chicago Reader needs to consider replacing J.R. Jones, as he apparently only speaks in gobbledygook. Stay with me here. He says the new sequel doesn't have enough of too much. Less charitable viewers might even argue that it has too much of not enough. Josh Spiegel from Slash Film says, Deadpool 2 is less a movie than a smirky feature-length meme generator. If you ask me, this seems to be an argument for a positive score. Memes are the best. David Edelstein from New York Magazine and Vulture says, if the filmmakers were as self-reflexive as they pretend to be, they'd find a way to show that Deadpool's insides are becoming as charred as his face. Wow, that's a low blow. Something tells me you were the jerk that made fun of the physically impaired kids at school.
Stop!
But Deadpool has something to say to David.
Promise me one thing. That you'll start judging people not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
Mara Reinstein from US Weekly says, in 2 years, Deadpool has gone from the scrappy class clown to the annoying wise-ass in the back of the room, spewing crude insults to amuse himself. Yeah, himself and about $785.8 million worth of audiences worldwide.
Passion of the Christ, then me. At least domestically. We beat them overseas, where there's no such thing as religion.
Sorry, Mara, but you're currently the only one in the back of the room. Hannah Strong from Little White Lies says that Deadpool 2 wants to be something more interesting than it really is. Well, you know what they say. If you want something bad enough, you'll get it.
When I say that I want these things, I mean that I want them.
And Deadpool clearly wanted it more than anybody. Philip de Simlian complains that Deadpool 2 is a long movie. It's only 10 minutes longer than the original. K. Austin Collins from Vanity Fair claims, 2 movies in, the Deadpool franchise has not only already run out of jokes, it's becoming everything it was supposed to hate.
Whoa! Pump the hate brakes, Fox and Friends.
Wade Wilson may be a fatalist, and Deadpool may have attitude, but you can look all night long, and you will find no hatred in Ryan Reynolds' character. Certainly hatred for child molesters, but I kind of figure that's a good thing.
Do you feel that too? Only best buddies execute pedophiles together.
Katie Walsh simply says, Deadpool 2 is annoying and bad. I'm sorry, Katie, but the marketing made it very clear what you were in for. There was no false advertising, and there's not a single annoying or bad thing in this raunchy and sweet masterpiece. I suggest you stay home this weekend when the sequel comes out, because the rest of us hope it's exactly what you don't want it to be.
Oh, that's not good. No, no, no. Oh, you're not going to walk that one off. Oh, that's so gross.
We at RTC can appreciate Kiko Martinez's negative review. He's from San Antonio Current, and he says, wherever you fall, it's safe to say viewers can at least agree that it's unapologetically crude and that Ryan Reynolds once again proves he is the perfect choice to play the titular anti-hero. Thank you, Kiko, for acknowledging the objective truth in a film that just didn't sit well with you. Here's to hoping the next one brings you more fulfillment. Tony Norman from Pittsburgh Post-Gazette gives an uneven analogy. He says, Deadpool 2 feels about as fresh as an old jelly donut covered with fire ants.
What is that, Private Pile? Sir, jelly donut, sir! A jelly donut? Sir, yes, sir!
Sure, you could eat it if you were starving, but it would never occur to you to recommend ingesting a mouthful of stinging ants and crusty pastry. I think he concentrated more on his bad lunch than he did on the movie itself. Ty Burr from Boston Globe is completely out of his mind. He says, the star does his shtick and invites us in for a giggle, but there's no weight to the character or to Reynolds' playing of him. He's like Robert Downey Jr. without the soul. In case you missed it, and Ty most certainly did, Deadpool's heart actually grows in this sequel. He's mourning the death of his fiancée. He's challenged to become a troubled child surrogate father.
I never should have left you there. I never should have left you in that prison. Oh. Jesus Christ. Just shirt-cocking it. Here you go, little fella.
And he's able to see past the villain's motives in order to team up. If Deadpool 2 doesn't at least choke you up, you're Colossus's steely body armor inside, without his gentle heart.
You're everything I knew you can be.
Thank you, Colossus.
Daniel Barnes from Sacramento News and Review says that Deadpool 2 calls out its own lazy writing, which is probably the laziest writing of all.
That's just lazy writing.
Is it lazy writing or a smartly written joke? To be that self-referential deserves a medal, not a rotten tomato. Daniel needs to learn how to keep up with the jokes and unstuff himself. If Ryan Reynolds ran for president and was that blatantly honest, I'd vote for him. And now it's time of our most honest review of Deadpool 2, The critic who sums up the movie with style and does so truthfully is Sean O'Connell from Cinema Blend. He says Deadpool 2 is an outrageous, surprising, hysterical, emotional, vulgar, creative, and uproarious summer blockbuster that fans of this genre, and of comedy in general, will devour.
Come back soon when we review what the critics have to say about the highly anticipated Deadpool and Wolverine. Check out some of our other videos and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share RTC so we can keep on bashing the critics. Also, share your favorite Deadpool joke down in the comments below.